Von Miller left today's game with a right knee injury sustained on this play, and in this video I'm going to talk you through what I think happened and why I don't think the turf is to blame. Welcome back everybody, I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and if you're new here and you enjoy learning about the underlying anatomy and mechanisms of sports injuries, then please consider subscribing to the channel. Getting right to the point, I'm concerned about a significant knee injury for Von Miller, specifically his ACL. There's a few things that will point to that with the mechanism, but the main thing to focus on here is what we see with this little bump in his right tibia. Tibia is the shin bone, and so the top of the tibia as it comes up to meet the femur is called the tibial plateau, or the little bump on the knee, the tibial tuberosity. If you look right here at this little abnormal contour throughout this movement, what you'll see is it basically shifts forward and then pops back. So that little shift right there is the top of his tibia, the top of the shin bone, that's shifting anterior then posterior, forward and backwards, as a result of what I think is an injury to his ACL. This position alone is something that most of you will probably recognize as being concerning. We have the trunk that's leaned over the affected side. We have the knee that's come inward with the femur and the tibia rotated, the tibia internally rotated relative to the femur. We've got a flat foot, and all this creates this knee abduction moment where the end of the distal tibia or shin bone wants to go outward, and all of these movements come together as a result of when the ACL can be torn. If I had to classify this as contact versus non-contact, I would say contact, but I would prefer to say indirect contact because it isn't a true knock to the outside of Miller's knee, but there is clearly still contact that causes this to occur. You can see here as he goes to plant with that right knee and push off, there's just ever so slight, a little bit of a bump from the lineman here on the Lions that knocks his leg inward and starts that movement cascade that ultimately leads to the injury. So it's a very subtle bit of contact, but it's some contact nonetheless that causes this whole sequence to go forward and likely injure his knee pretty bad. If we read between the lines with the reporting here, they're of course saying he has a knee sprain, but remember, a sprain is just an injury to a ligament. It can be everything from a mild partial stretch to a full complete rupture. All of those are considered sprains. So this in no way rules in or rules out something like an ACL rupture. Also remember that mechanisms don't always lead to full rupture. So just because the mechanism looks like the ACL could be at risk, it might still very well just be a partial injury. Also recognize that in these positions, of course, you have the MCL that's on the inside of the knee, and so that can get stretched with this position. And the meniscus can be injured as well. So there's really multiple different things that can happen with this one injury mechanism, but of course the worst would be the ACL. This little shift in the knee is about as pathognomonic as it gets in terms of clear video sign of an ACL injury. There's really nothing else that would cause that much shift to take place in the knee unless it was already extremely unstable to begin with, or it was just a very high-grade partial tear. So anytime you see the shift with a mechanism that fits, again, think about the ACL. Now the whole debate about the turf versus the grass, because of course this happened on turf and people are gonna again say that turf is to blame. And while I don't like turf fields and I think we should all be playing on grass, I don't think we can blame turf in this instance. When I think of a turf field being in part to blame with an ACL injury, I'm thinking of non-contact mechanisms and thinking of somebody running, cutting, planting, changing directions where the friction between the turf and their shoe alters the knee in such a way that it makes the ACL tear potentially more likely to occur, even though the research is, I would say, far from 100% conclusive. In this instance, because there's contact here, I think all bets are off in terms of what the field surface is. That contact is what causes this sequence to proceed. It's not his cleat getting caught in the turf or anything like that. The contact happens before the cleat goes into the turf. And so I don't think we can blame the turf and the cleat interaction here for this specific injury. If there was absolutely no contact with another player, then sure, we could continue that discussion, but here, I don't think it's the case. That's it for the video. I hope it was educational. Let me know down below what you learned and your thoughts on this debate about turf versus grass, and if you think the turf was to blame for this injury. Thank you as always for watching, and until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.